All right. So we definitely won't go through all these slides because you're going to see they're duplicative for what we talked about. We just wanted to make sure that information about support services existed in the support services slide deck. So the first quick thing, particularly to talk about support service case management, right? I don't have to preach this group, right? Just treating people as individuals. Everyone has different goals, right? Sometimes when it comes to monitoring, HOPWA not only sees things like the same rent reasonableness for every unit, but they'll have care plans and everyone has the exact same goal down to the word by word. And it doesn't make any sense, right? So just remember to treat individuals as individuals, particularly when it comes to these wraparound supports and support services. Some information about making sure all of your goals are realistic, because the idea is just you want to create goals for your clients. Accomplishing those is not a HOPWA requirement. If people don't accomplish their goals, just break them down to something that's more bite-sized. Remember, self-sufficiency is not a requirement. You do want them to be more self-sufficient. So not achieving a goal is not a failure for them or for you. It just means probably you need to break that down or have an honest conversation about them about what's the real issue.
That's when they get mad at me.
So this is more particularly when you are creating goals, about digging deeper when it comes to making plans and setting expectations, not just for your clients, for yourself. And we talked about this a little bit, is sometimes clients aren't sure or may not be able to fully express what the actual underlying need is, right? So you want to help lead them to that if you're aware, but you may not know. But sometimes they're just not ready to accept it to themselves. Furthermore, clients may not be aware of resources available to them, or clients may have already have resources that they're not aware of. So particularly this comes up when we talk about things that HOPWA can or can't pay for, is sometimes clients actually have resources within their own social networks. They just don't think about. So quality case management is talking to them about who do you know, what resources are in your area, right? What have you done in the past when this issue came up, right? What would you do in the future if this issue came up when we weren't here? So we have covered this slide. So it's the same thing about talking about what HOPWA can and doesn't always have to pay for. So here's really where I like HOPWA again in support services. Is support services can be used in a less formalized way to engage individuals, right? So particularly for those people who need additional support and refuse to accept them, support services is a great way to lure them in. So support services can be helpful in engaging clients who are struggling in some way and who may have case management services established elsewhere, but that provider is unable or willing to provide the needed service, right? So if you can go into someone's house and provide food, if you're going to talk about transportation, you start asking about, oh, you have case management. Are they achieving your goals and needs? No. Well, let's sign a release and I can talk to them and let's figure out how to make that work. Support services are great for clients who are ordinarily stable and don't need formal case management. Why pick up someone for your case management caseload if they're not going to need it? But maybe they just need a little bit of food, a little bit of transportation, those life skills we've talked about. It's a support service is an excellent way to break the ice and establish a relationship. So I talked about even when I did TBRA, I would deliver food to people because that was my way in. It was particularly great for clients who had mental health issues and would refuse to let case management in, but they'd let the housing guy come in and deliver food. And so I was the one who was doing that para case management and say like, all right, like we're still okay, right? So it was eyes on the client and then starting to ask questions about like, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you, right? Or you left that really weird voicemail at 3 a.m. Can we talk about that? Do you want to talk about it more? What was also great too is using these things as a way to break down barriers to case management. So I'm sure you guys have experienced this also. People who have an idea of what case management is because they had a bad case manager in the past. And so when we'd say, I think you need case management, they'd say, they're not worth the hassle. All I did was X, Y, Z. Is we'd do this idea of using some of support services to get our foot in the door. And then when they got used to that, sort of saying like, this is really case management. I'm sorry you had this terrible experience in the past with a different agency or a different person, but this is how it should operate. I can't help you much because I'm TBRA, right? But if you do want additional supports, let's take those next steps. So using this to sort of test those waters and help them understand how HOPWA or even case management can really benefit them, right? If they really need it, they said in the most affectionate way possible, lure them in with the use of support services. So here's an example. So Alex has several challenges in their life and struggles to maintain benefits such as Ryan White, Medicaid, SNAP, so food stamps, SNAP benefits. So while you think they could benefit from case management, Alex has never had a case manager and declines referrals because they think by having one, they will not be able or allowed to make their own decisions. I personally have experience that there are people who would say, I don't want a case manager because they're going to tell me what to do, and I'm an adult and no one can tell me. I said, ooh, you probably had terrible experience with a case manager then. So under HOPWA, under support services, you can provide food assistance and inquiries about helping them reinstate their SNAP benefits, right? Particularly if there's limits on food or budgets, you can say, let's talk about some additional resources. Why can't you make your SNAP recertification? Alex appreciates the help and wants to know if other types of assistance are available. You see that you were helpful under one thing, even with support services, now they want more. So you can use this opportunity to help Alex better understand case management, and that this is the type of activity that the case manager can help with. So you can also use support services to help fill gaps in budgets. So we talked about this earlier, but things that other programs can't cover or HOPWA can't cover, then you start to figure out what can HOPWA cover, and then can the client use their own income to cover those things. So not only can the HOPWA support services help for things like case management that can help through those steps of filling the gaps, right? But support service can also do employment assistance or training. So if someone needs that to help improve their life. Education, we talked about nutrition and food, transportation, right? But really starting to think through those things where we talked about a client needs to pay for something and no one will pay for it. But if I can give you $50 of food and $50 of transportation assistance and that $100, you pay that, right? So starting to be creative about what's eligible to help cover the things that they need that no one else will pay for. So an example, Jamie has a HOPWA TBRA subsidy, is employed, generally stable, and not in need of case management. They live in a rural area and must commute to work. Jamie's car recently broke down and needs repair. The cost of repairs will cut to Jamie's tight budget, and they may have to choose between repairing their car or buying groceries. Jamie has also weighed the option of not making the repairs and quitting their job. Terrible all around, right? Terrible for the client, terrible for your program, and for the budget. So in this example, HOPWA could be used to assist Jamie by providing supplemental food assistance so Jamie can pay for their car repairs and maintain employment. Right? They have TBRA, so you can't use STRMU for their portion of rent. You can't pay their utilities, and you don't want Jamie to quit, particularly not just because that's going to increase your HAB, but now they can't go to the doctor, they can't get their meds. So finding those creative ways to help cover it so they can stay on the program and maintain the life that they want. So resource IDs, and particularly since it's new, the slides are here. This is really that creative way, and I think we've stressed this enough, this idea of now looking at the system as a whole and coordinating with other programs to help align your HOPWA program with other resources out there and have a place to properly charge that time for what you're doing. So going to things like going to your continuum of care meetings and representing HOPWA, meeting with local housing authorities so you can figure out better moving on strategies, you can figure out their policies, you probably have a better chance of getting the utility allowance schedule then when you're meeting with them regularly. Having time to sit in on Ryan White planning groups to better make sure who's paying for what. When we talked about the healthcare system, to coordinate with public health clinics, hospitals, and medical offices, and then also organizations funded for conducting outreach to those who may have HIV, right? So just reaching out to any community organization that clients might be at. Also using resource identification to develop resources by helping to collect data. I do like when resource ID is used to help conduct HOPWA specific client focus groups, right? Because once again, this isn't, right, you're looking at the system as a whole, so you don't even care who comes in, right? You don't have to say you're not enrolled in services or you've been disenrolled. You're not providing any sort of financial assistance. So it's just saying, if you have HOPWA, if you ever ran HOPWA, or you think you're eligible for HOPWA, come on in. Tell us what the system needs to do. Tell us what we need to do. So, there you go. Questions? Questions about anything?
Did you all think of TM when we leave?